Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's Dealer On webinar, How to Use Google Analytics to Increase Leads and ROs. My name is Eliana Raggio and I'll be your moderator today. Today's webinar is being presented by Dealeron. For anyone who isn't familiar with Dealeron, we're an award-winning website development company and digital agency, best known for our amazing SEO, the absolute best customer service, and the highest converting website designs in the industry, including the award-winning Chameleon responsive website platform. We're so committed to lead conversion, optimization, and customer service that Dealeron is still the only company in the industry that offers a money-back lead guarantee program. Does your website company guarantee you a 50% lift in leads or your money back? Maybe you should check us out at our gorgeous brand new Dealeron website at dealeron.com. We have a great show in store for you today. We're very pleased to have Chris Deringer as our presenter today. Chris Deringer is the Chief Marketing Officer for Dealeron, Inc., with more than 15 years of digital marketing optimization experience and success. Chris is an expert in all aspects of online marketing and e-commerce, including SEO, paid search, conversion optimization, web analytics, and A/B and multivariate website testing. In the automotive industry, he's regarded as the foremost authority on how to measure and optimize marketing performance with Google Analytics. Chris came to Dealeron from Network Solutions, where he spent 7 years helping lead their online marketing strategy and analytics areas. Chris is a Google AdWords and Google Analytics certified expert, a 2012 Mobile Web Awards judge, and a past member of the Web Analytics Association. He keeps up to date with all Google AdWords and Google Analytics advancements, and Chris can be reached at chris@dealeron.com. Now, during the presentation, if you have any questions, please use the question feature located on the corner of your screen to submit them. At the end of the presentation, we'll answer those questions of general interest. If we're unable to get to your question live, we're going to try to respond by email later today. Also, don't forget, a link to download a copy of this webinar recording will also be emailed to you later today for your reference, and feel free to share it with your friends and colleagues. And guess what? Our good friends at AutoHook are sponsoring this week's webinar giveaway. AutoHook is a showroom traffic driver. They've built the ultimate attribution engine, which tracks that customer through the lead, showroom visit, and purchase, and then delivers a cost per sale that's best in the industry. One of you lucky webinar attendees is going to win a $250 e-gift card from AutoHook. You have to be on the live broadcast to win it, though. So stay tuned, and you could be the one walking away with this awesome prize today. And for more information about AutoHook, visit lead2show.com. That's lead with the number 2, show.com. Also, at the conclusion of the webinar, you're going to receive a short survey, so fill it out, because we're always looking for quality feedback from our audience, and we want to hear from you, so let your opinion be heard. And hey, do you tweet much? We hope you do. We'd love to see what you have to say about today's presentation, so please tag us in it. You can use hashtag DealeronWebby. I'm at Eliana Raggio. You can also hit up Chris Deringer at Dealeron. We look forward to seeing what you're saying. So let's get started. Let's learn how to use Google Analytics to increase leads and ROs. Chris Deringer, how are you, my friend?
Hey, Eliana, I'm doing great today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, too. Thank you. And for those of you in the audience who may not know, Chris is actually my boss. So let's try and be nice to him today, okay? Now, Chris, thank you so much for doing this. Yes, I did twist Chris's arm because we were getting a lot of requests for a show on Google Analytics, and I don't know anyone better at Google Analytics than Chris Deringer. So he graciously accepted my invitation to do this webinar today. And I'm thrilled that you're here. And by the numbers of people who signed up and are here today, believe me, this is definitely one that we have waited to have. And I'm glad you're here to do it, Chris. I know you have a lot to get to. Where do we begin?
Well, Eliana, I want to thank you so much for the enthusiastic welcome and for everyone taking a little time out of their day today to hopefully learn more about how Google Analytics can help them be a little more efficient with how they're spending their marketing dollars, how they can better optimize their websites and make business decisions about their marketing with actual data. Before we get going, I would like to take the sort of the temperature of the audience and understand what their general expertise and sophistication is with Google Analytics presently. Could you just go ahead and pull them real fast?
Absolutely. All right, audience, we have 4 poll questions for you today. The first one is on the screen now. We'd love it if you take part in our poll question. It really helps us out. And of course, as you heard, it's going to help Chris with his presentation today. So we want to know, how are you currently using Google Analytics at your dealership? Please select one of the following answers. Are you pretty sure that your website provider put it on your site? You think? Or you have Google Analytics code on your site, you're sure of it. I've set up goals and values. I track my metrics every month, or I'm a Google Analytics enthusiast. We want to know what is happening at your dealership and how you view Google Analytics. So once we get a majority of the votes in, we're going to close the poll and share the results. Once again, how are you currently using Google Analytics at your dealership? You're pretty sure your website provider put it on your site. You have Google Analytics code on your website. You've set up goals and values. You track your metrics every month. Or you are a Google Analytics enthusiast. Once we get a majority of the votes in, oh, we do have a majority. Oh, audience, you guys rock. Oh, Chris, almost everyone's voted. Thank you so much, audience. That's awesome. Chris, I still think you're going to be excited and impressed by these results, by the way. Audience, thank you so much. We're going to have a few more poll questions coming your way in a little bit, but for right now, let's close this poll and share the results. Okay, in order, 7% of today's audience says they're pretty sure their website provider put Google Analytics on their site, they think. 18% of today's audience, yes, I have Google Analytics code on my website. 5% of today's audience says that they have set up goals and values. We're going to be addressing that a little bit later on with Chris. Now the majority, 36% of today's audience, say that they track their metrics every month. And the remaining 34% says that they are Google Analytics enthusiasts. Chris, does that help you out?
That does. That's great. Dealeron is, prides ourselves on being an analytics-driven company, and we find that about 90% of the dealers that we onboard on our platform already have Google Analytics on their sites. And unfortunately, what we also find is that for a lot of them, it is not their own Google Analytics code. So it's great that you have Google Analytics on your site, but one of the things that I'm going to advocate is that you make sure that you have your own Google Analytics code on your website. So a lot of us have had our website provider put their code on, or our SEO provider, our SEM provider, our agency, but dealers don't always have their own code on their sites. And it's critical that you always own your own data in addition to the analytics code that one of your vendors may have as well. You want to be able to, God forbid you have to leave your website vendor that you love. Maybe your OEM is forcing a new mandate on you requiring that you change providers. You want to make sure that you retain your own data so that you can go back and look at month over month, at year over year metrics to see how you're performing versus the past, to see how your desktop or your mobile traffic is trending versus where you were at the same time last month and that last year. So if, I'm going to go through and have about 5 or 6 recommendations that dealers really must do if they want to get as much as possible out of analytics, and that is absolutely one of them. Get your own analytics code on your site. Now, I want to talk about why it's so critical that we use analytics on our site and measure our traffic and all of our marketing channels. The average dealer spends roughly a little over $500,000 according to NADA per year on marketing. Generally, it's between $400,000 and $1 million. That makes it the second biggest marketing, or the second biggest expense on a dealer's P&L. It's actually higher than rent. And
jeez.
So what's critical is to understand how the marketing money that you're spending and the traffic that you're bringing to your website is converting, and understanding where you might have problems with that conversion. So if you go into the next poll question, Eliana, I love understanding how dealers are currently spending their marketing dollars.
Let's do it. All right, audience, your second of 4 poll questions is on the screen now. Yeah, we want to know what's going on in your dealership. So the question is, what percentage of your current marketing spend is allocated towards online marketing? So we're talking about SEO, SEM, social media. I mean, anything having to do with the internet, all right, is really what we are. And if you're not sure, try and take a best guess, because we really are looking forward to trying to figure this out and see what is going on across the United States. So please select one of the following. Do you believe that less than 25% of your current marketing spend is allocated towards online marketing? Do you think it's somewhere between 25% and 50%? Maybe it's between 50 and 75%, or do you feel that you're one of those dealerships who spends more than 75% of their market spend on online marketing? Then, of course, we always have that last option. Oh, geez, I have no idea. So that's an option too. Once we get, we already have a huge majority of the votes. Oh, audience, you guys are killing it today. Killing it. I love it. Thank you so much, everyone. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll leave it open for a couple more seconds, and then we'll close the poll and share the results. And wow, Chris, wait till you see the answers that we have gotten from our audience today. Okay, I'll tell you what, let's close this poll and share the results. Okay, only 13% of today's audience say that they spend less than 25% of their market spend on online items such as SEM and SEO. So that was only 13%, all right? But 27%, so more than a quarter, say they spend between 25 and 50%. The majority, however, 40% of today's audience, say they spend between 50% and 75% of their budget on online marketing. And a rare 16% of today's audience say that they spend more than 75% of their market spend towards online. And then we have that last 4% that really has no idea how much of their market spend goes towards online marketing. So, Chris, is there a right or wrong answer to this? Does that help you out?
You know what? That is awesome to hear. I'm going to just review a couple of things about how dealers generally spend their money. But I will say that our audience, as I sort of suspected, skews much more heavily to digital and online than the dealership population at large, at least according to NADA.
Right.
If you go back 14 years, you'll see that 95% of dealers' marketing spend was offline. Today, those numbers, and so the 2015 yellow columns that you see are NADA's 2015 numbers. So even in today's age, you still see 70% plus of a dealer's marketing spend going to traditional media channels, newspaper, TV, direct mail, radio. Now, I'm not just reviewing this to talk about it. I've got a very important and critical point here. So even though people are spending their budgets and showing 70% spend in traditional channels, when you actually survey consumers who come to a dealership and buy a new car, and this is even more skewed if you just survey used car buyers, you find that 87% of the people who came in and bought a vehicle said that the marketing channel that the dealer was using that brought them to the dealership that day was the internet. So even though we are spending 70+% of our money on these traditional media channels, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you're spending your money today. No one is coming to your dealership without going to your website first. So what becomes critical then is to understand that all of today's shopping for cars, all of the consumer shopping is occurring online. It used to be in 2005 that the average car buyer would go to 4 or 5 dealership showrooms before they bought their car. Today, that number is anywhere from 1.4 to 1.2, depending upon which survey you want to look at. What that means is all consumers are doing is checking out different dealerships' websites to figure out which one they're going to drive to do business with. So that means they're either going to call you, they're going to email you, they're going to submit a web lead, they're going to chat with you, or they're simply going to look over your inventory and click, from their phone, click over from your mobile site to Google Maps and get directions to come to your dealership. In other words, regardless of where you are spending your money right now, even if you're spending 100% of your money on TV, the consumer is making their decision about whether or not to come to your dealership based on your website. So it is impossible for a dealer to be successful if they're not paying attention to how the consumer is interacting with their site. If you're spending all of your money in traditional media and you've got a terrible website, you're basically flushing your money down the toilet. Again, consumers who cannot interact appropriately with your website, who don't find a reason to come to your dealership versus the one across town or the one down the street while they're on your website, aren't coming. And here's something that I see all the time. Again, as a website provider that is, 100% of our customers are on Google Analytics. It's the platform that we do all of our reporting off of. I typically will see that we'll have two dealers in the same market. Maybe we'll have two Kia or two Hyundai dealers in the same town. They're selling the same model lineup. They're selling to the same geographies. They're selling to the same demographics of clientele. One dealer's site will convert at 2% or less. The other site will convert at 6% or more. When you begin putting monetary figures to that, figuring out how valuable a higher converting site is to a dealership, you think the average dealership in the United States, the average franchise dealer, gets about 4,000 visitors per month. If you have a 2% conversion for that traffic, that's about 80 website leads. If you're selling a vehicle to about 15% of all of your first-party website leads, which is fairly typical in the United States, that translates into about 12 vehicles. However, if you're getting a 6% conversion rate off of your website and you've got 240 sales opportunities for your internet team and they're converting at the same 15%, that's 36 vehicles. That's an incremental 24, 25 vehicles a month. And I think that we can all agree that every dealer in the United States wants to be able to sell 24, 25 more vehicles simply by making sure that their website is optimized for their traffic and for their consumers. So Eliana, that leads me into our next poll question. If you could go ahead and put that up there.
Absolutely. All right, audience, your third poll question is on the screen. Yeah, I know, we're flying through this. I hope we'll have the same amount of participation we had on the last two. Here is the question for you now. How has the data from Google Analytics affected your business decisions? Please select all that apply. You don't even have to just select one. We want to know if it changed anything in your dealership or the way you've decided to do things at your dealership. So, has the data from Google Analytics made you decide to change a website vendor or other digital vendor? Did you change your website design? Maybe you've changed your website content, or maybe you've changed your marketing spend and or allocation of your marketing budget. Or maybe it's the last one. I've changed a lot of things, but none of it was based on my Google Analytics data. So whatever it is, we want to know what's going on at your dealership and how much you actually rely on the data that you see in Google Analytics. All right. And again, Chris, I don't know, is there a right or wrong answer to this? I mean, should you not make any moves for online decisions without checking with Google Analytics first?
There is a right answer.
There is a right answer? Oh, all right. Well, let's keep going. We're going to find out soon. Lots of people have voted. Audience, you guys are just amazing today. Thank you so much for participating in our poll question. Boy, oh boy, almost everyone's voted. So real quick, how's the data from Google Analytics affected your business decisions? You've changed a website vendor or other digital vendor. You changed your website design. You've changed your website content. You've changed your marketing spend or allocation. Or, you know what, we don't really pay much attention to the Google Analytics data when it comes to making decisions. We want you to select all that apply. And Chris, if you're ready, wow, wait till you see these answers. I'm going to close this poll and share the results. All right, here we go. A third of today's audience, 33% of today's audience, say that they have changed a website vendor or other digital vendor based on the data from their Google Analytics. Another 33%, or perhaps the same 33%, says that they've changed their website design. Oh, 56% of today's audience say that they've changed their website content. The majority, 67% of today's audience, admit that they've changed their marketing spend and or other marketing allocations based on Google Analytics. And then 24% say that they really don't pay that much attention to the Google Analytics data, but they do make lots of changes, but not because of their Google Analytics data. So Chris, earlier you said that there actually is a correct answer. I can't wait to find out what it is.
Well, I would say that the correct answer is to whatever you're doing to make sure that you are at least looking at your Google Analytics data or whatever data. If you have a different analytics platform that you're using, you want to make sure that you're using some data to make decisions. And if you don't have complete data, you should at least look at the data before and after you've made the decision and figure out whether it was the right one or not. And it's interesting that only 24% of our attendees are making decisions without looking at their data at all. That is awesome. What I typically see in our dealers, I've been working with dealers for 8 years now, and I will confess that that this is not as big of a problem now as it was 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, but I will see even our sharpest, most data-focused dealers frequently make website decisions arbitrarily. Frequently, our customers are optimizing by their HIPPO, the highest paid person in their organization. I don't know how many times I've had one of our account managers tell me that the dealer was putting up a new banner or adding a search box to their homepage or making some sort of change because their nephew who just came out of school had told them that this was the right thing to do, or they saw it on some other dealer's website and they thought it was cool. They needed to get their flamingo on their website, and so they had to move their inventory search box down below the fold. What we want to make sure that we're doing, and the right answer to this is, we want to at least use whatever data that we have available in our decision. It may not be perfect data, and I'm going to be talking about how we can triangulate and use existing Google Analytics data to try and make decisions even about traditional media spend. And it's not going to be perfect data, but we want to use the data that is available to us to make as good a decision as possible about each one of these things. So when we're talking about how to measure the performance of our site, we're talking about, in order to do that, we need to have our platform set up so that we can. The 3 steps that we're going to go through in order to do this are, number 1, to set goals for your website. You have to, if you take nothing else away from this besides, I've got to get my own analytics code on my website, and I have to set goals for my website. Those are the 2 most critical things that, that you should take away from this session today. The reason is, if you don't tell your vendors, if you don't tell your employees, if people don't know what you want the customers who are coming to your website to do, they have no way of optimizing for those things. So obviously you want to optimize for any of your form leads. If it's a website, if it's a vehicle lead, if it's a finance lead, if it's someone calling your dealership. But you also don't want to just optimize for that. You also want to optimize for things like people viewing VDPs, people printing coupons off your site, people hitting the click to call button, people going to your hours and direction page. So here are a few examples of those sorts of things. And everyone needs to think about all of the things that they would like someone, a consumer coming to their website to do when they're spending money on paid search, or when they're sending out an email marketing campaign, when they're doing some social media campaign. What do you want the traffic that's coming to your website to do for it to have been successful for your dealership? I'm sure that all of us want people who come to our website to call our dealership. One of the things that I'm going to advocate is that if you have the budget for it, that you get a Google Analytics integrated website, call tracking provider. Now, there are a lot of call tracking providers out there, but if you pay just a little bit more, you can actually get your call tracking to integrate seamlessly with Google Analytics. So you can see where people who are calling your dealership are visiting during the course of their session and what medium they're coming from. Are they coming from paid search? Are they coming from organic search? In addition to setting up all of our goals, again, coupon prints, we want to make sure that we are providing, before I get into the value, I'm going to talk about the 2 ways that you need to set up your tracking. There are 4 ways that you can actually track goals in Google Analytics. I'm only going to recommend 2 of them. The 2 are a destination URL. Again, this is obvious for a lead form. Someone gets to the thank you page from your credit app. Someone submits a lead for a vehicle. They come to a thank you page. All you've got to do is work with your website provider and have them tell you what are the URLs that you need to set up. They should really be setting these up on your behalf for any of your lead forms. In addition to that, you want to track things like click to call, like video plays that aren't just URLs, but are what Google Analytics calls events. So again, you're going to need a little bit of help from your website provider, but in the resources section at the end of this, I provided some links to some little videos and some instructional guides for how to set up each one of these goals within analytics. I don't want to spend all of our time clicking through analytics and showing you exactly, okay, you go here, you set this up in this fashion. The videos that are at the end of this presentation are very brief and they're very self-explanatory. Google Analytics has done an excellent job of putting those together. What I'm not going to recommend, and what I sometimes see dealers set up, are events related to time on your dealership's website or number of pages during your session. And the reason that I'm not going to recommend those is that I can't tell a dealership, and if I'm optimizing a website, I don't know whether it's better for someone to have spent 5 minutes on the website or 2 minutes or 3 minutes. If they have found a vehicle and they've submitted a lead, I'm not going to give any extra credit for that visit because it's 5 minutes versus 2 minutes. If they have gone to 100 pages on my site that I didn't find valuable enough to set up a goal for, I'm not going to set up a goal to give myself credit for the person having gone to 100 pages. Again, the things that you want to track are the things that a consumer can do that add value to your dealership. After you have set up all of your goals and recorded them, you want to then assign a value for each one of those goals. And the reason that we assign a value to the goal is we can't consider all goals to be of equal benefit to our dealership. Obviously, someone going to a VDP benefits your dealership. What it doesn't do is provide as much value as someone submitting a vehicle lead. What I advocate for all of our dealers is start out with what is the value of a vehicle lead off of your website to your dealership. It's going to be different for every dealer who's listening on this phone call. If your dealership is buying third-party leads, for example, and you're spending roughly $17 for those leads, and they convert about a third as frequently as the leads off of your website, then you probably would value a lead off of your website at about 3 times that amount, or roughly $50. There are other ways that you can go through this process and figure out roughly how valuable that lead is to you. You can look at the closing percentage on the website leads that come into your BDC, and you can look at what the average margin is on each one of those leads that closes. Then you can back into an amount. Maybe the appropriate figure is $100. Maybe it's $75. The point is that you need to go through this exercise at your dealership and determine for your dealership how valuable is a new vehicle lead to you. Once you set that Once you set that standard, you can start to value all of the other interactions relative to how valuable a new vehicle lead is to your dealership. For example, for a typical dealership, a credit app lead is going to be even more valuable. Frequently, these people are even further down the shopping funnel. They typically end up providing a higher margin per vehicle that they buy. And so we would encourage our dealers, after they've looked through their data, to, if it is more valuable to them, provide a slightly higher value for a credit app lead than a website vehicle lead. You also want to provide a value for people going to your hours and directions page. One of the things that was not true a few years ago is that if someone went to your hours and directions page from a mobile phone and then clicked immediately through to a Google map, they didn't have that option 4 or 5 years ago. Now that is probably a more valuable lead than someone on a desktop computer simply going to your map page. You want to make sure that you're giving yourself more value, more credit for those mobile leads that are clicking directly into Google Maps off of their phone than just for the desktop visit that is checking out your Maps page and looking at directions to your site. You then want to value what is each VDP view worth to me. It's going to be dramatically less than a website lead, but it does have some value, and you want to make sure that you're accounting for that. Again, service coupons. Someone prints a service coupon. You want to make sure that you're accounting for the value of that print. So we're actually in the process of revising this, but by Memorial Day, we're going to have our latest and greatest value guide that we provide to our dealers that will then account for more of the mobile skew of our traffic. But if anyone would like to get this by Memorial Day, they can just send an email to yourself, Eliana, or me, and we will get them our recommended value guide for a number of the different interactions off the website. The value guide that we generally propose to our dealers when they're looking for our advice in terms of how to set up their values for all their goals. So then, Eliana, could you go into our next poll question?
Yes, sir, I can. Okay, our last poll question is on the screen now. It's a pretty good one, too. We want to know, how often do you currently check your dealership website Google Analytics? Don't lie now. We're watching you. Not really. But please select one of the following answers. Do you check your Google Analytics daily, weekly, monthly, whenever we have a big decision to make, or not at all? Once we get a majority of the votes in, we're going to close the poll and share the results. A few people have asked if this webinar is being recorded. Yes, it is. Will you get the recording? Yes, you will. But still, what we'd love for you to do right now is answer that poll question for us. And we're nearing the end of Chris's presentation. So if you have any questions for Chris, hey, send those in. We'd love to know how we could help you with your Google Analytics. And, oh, a lot of the votes are coming in now. Thank you so very much. David wrote in, multiple times a day wasn't an option, so I went with daily. That's a smart move. Thanks, Dave. All right. Chris, if you are ready, I will close this poll and share the results.
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. 24% of today's audience say that they check their Google Analytics daily. The majority, 46%, so almost half, said they check it weekly. 27% of today's audience say they look at Google Analytics every month, and only 3% of today's audience say whenever they have a big decision to make. And thankfully for us, no one selected the last answer, which was not at all. Chris, is there a right answer to this question?
I guess it depends on your level of direct involvement at the dealership and how confident you are in the performance of your site. I don't know if you need to check it daily. That might be the case. I would encourage you to check it whenever you need to. And again, that's gonna vary. What I do want to do is, after we've talked about that, is make sure that you are able to track and measure all of the marketing that you're doing.
Right.
So I think that at the start of our this webinar, that over 50% of the folks said that they were spending 50% or more of their marketing dollars online, which I think is awesome. I think dealers should be spending even more than that. But regardless of how you're spending your money, for the online portion of your marketing spend, you should be able to track 100% of that. If you're not already using Google's URL builder to track all of your online marketing, you absolutely must. I have a link to this, again, in the resources at the end of the presentation, but the URL builder is very simple to use. You simply put in the page that you want your traffic to land on. So if you're putting an email campaign together, whatever page on your site you're going to land that traffic on, you put it in right here. You then put a source. If you're doing paid search on Google, it would be Google. Then your medium would be paid search. If you're doing an email marketing campaign, it would be perhaps newsletter and email. If you're doing paid search again, you can put your keywords in here. You can even dynamically generate them if you want. And then you can put in the campaign. For instance, if this is a new vehicle campaign, if this is a service campaign, a fixed ops campaign, you can also specify that. The beauty of Google's URL builder is when you use it, all of your data will automatically flow into all of Google's visit and session level reporting. So you'll be able to bucket all of your traffic between paid search, organic search, email, social media, and then you'll be able to drill down into whether it's coming from Google, Bing, Yahoo, whether it's coming from Facebook or Google+. You'll be able to go into the channel report, which is right here, and see how your traffic is changing over time based on how you are measuring it with your URL builder. So I do not advocate that dealers generally use Google's analytics interface to provide a marketing scorecard to themselves. I advocate that they get the data out of here and then create something like this. So if you do track all of your online marketing, you can then bucket it, as I'm showing here, into organic search versus paid search versus direct, referral, display, social. Then you can track the value that you have set up for each one of those channels over time. This is one of our dealers. This is actually a New Jersey dealer of ours, and this is their monthly visit data broken out by channel and their monthly value broken out by channel as well. Now, what I don't have the benefit of is knowing exactly how much they're spending on their different channels, but the next step then would be to plug in your spend here, and then you can generate the ROI. How much value are you creating for each dollar that you're spending in each one of these channels? Now, this particular dealer saw a huge increase in their traffic going from January to February. When they saw that big increase, and that was in their paid search channel, they also saw a decline, unfortunately, in the value that was coming from those campaigns. So if I'm a dealer and I'm putting this sort of analysis together, then I can start analyzing where I might be having some problems in the different marketing channels that I'm spending money on. For example, in this case, I can compare February to January for paid search, and I can do something like look at the region or look at the city that I'm driving that traffic from. This is actually that New Jersey dealer that I was talking about. You can see that between January and February, they saw a slight decline in the amount of paid search traffic that was coming to them from New Jersey. Now, New Jersey should be almost all of the traffic for their paid search. They're not located right next to Pennsylvania or New York. They are pulling some traffic in from those states, but you can see that they went from 12 visits from Ontario, Canada to 870 when they were doing their paid search in February. That may indicate a problem. When you look over at the pages per session and the bounce rate of that traffic, you can see that whatever that traffic is, and unfortunately because their analytics and their AdWords are not linked in this particular account. We can't see all of the data that would be great to be able to diagnose exactly what the problem is. But we can see that, again, as we blow it up, you've got 657 visits coming from Quebec, whereas the prior month you had 0. So something problematic is happening in this paid search account. And we can see that because we've created a scorecard here that we can then dissect in Google Analytics here. I strongly recommend that everyone track this on a monthly basis with this sort of scorecard. There are more granular analyses that you can get into on your website within Google Analytics, but if you don't do this, you're not going to be able to monitor how you're investing your marketing dollars over time. And that is one of the most critical levers that you have to control as a digital marketer.
And where did you make that in? It looks like you made it in Excel. You made this, and this is like every dealership should make something like this, similar to this?
Yeah, if I can certainly provide the Excel file for anyone who's interested. It's not the most complicated thing in the world. All you really need to do is be tracking these every month, pulling, you just go log in, pull one set of data out of Google Analytics each month, put in your, with your value and your visits, you put in your spend, and it will calculate your ROI. And again, you are not always going to find, ideally, and this is why I was saying that you may not need to go into your analytics every day or every week. If you've got something, a report like this, and if you've got confidence in your internal team that's spending your money or the vendors that are investing your money on your behalf, and they are aware of what your goals are, and these numbers are constantly increasing, you may not need to be logging into your analytics every day or every week. But I would certainly review a report like this with all of my vendors every month and make sure that you understand directionally where your marketing spend is going. And if you do find a problem, or even if you find something good going on, you want to understand with your vendor what they changed or what you changed on your website that is impacting that, so you can do more of it. That's the beauty of dealers like the folks who are on this session who are investing 50% or more of their marketing budget online. You have, or you should have, almost 100% clarity on the performance of that spend, and then you can figure out how to, where you're getting the most bang for your buck and how to spend more money there. We'll even go through a few of those things in the next few slides. Anytime that you test or that you change a major page on your site, if you don't use an Optimizely or a visual website optimizer, which are the two most common A/B testing tools, or if your site simply doesn't have enough traffic to support doing an analysis like that, you should definitely figure out what the performance is before and after of any change on your major change on your site. There are 3 places that I'm going to advocate that you make sure that you measure when you make changes to. One is your homepage. Anytime you make what you even think is a subtle change to the homepage on your site, make sure you understand how the traffic that is going through that page converted before and afterwards. How much value were you generating from that traffic before you made the change and after you made the change. The 2 other areas that you want to absolutely have to measure on your site are your search results pages and your vehicle details pages. Again, you can create content groupings for each of those and then create reports that will instantly show you how much value that subset of pages is creating or not creating versus your baseline. Once you have set up all of this, we also want to make sure that we understand the entire customer journey and how much value all of our off-site marketing is doing. Again, typically where you're going to be spending money is on marketing media like paid search or social that isn't going to have a direct click to lead or click to phone call customer journey. Someone's going to come to your site. Let's say you're buying one of your competitors' branded terms on paid search. They come to your site, they check out a few VDPs, they leave your site. They're gone for a few weeks. They come back to your site. Maybe they searched on your brand, so it looks like an organics visit to you now. They end up submitting a lead. They end up buying a vehicle. Now, if you aren't using Google's multi-channel funnel reporting, you're not going to have the reporting that shows that that visit, the original visit, came from your paid search efforts, and you're not going to give credit or value or phone call attribution to the original marketing source for that visit. Typically, when we look at this for paid search, we'll see anywhere between 25 and 60% more leads, more phone calls, more value when we peel back the onion and look at the original source of the visit rather than just looking at the last click. So make sure that you take advantage of the multi-channel funnel reporting in Google, and you're not just doing last click attribution especially for the channels where you're investing marketing dollars. So now that we sort of covered how you want to set up all of your tracking, the monthly scorecard that you want to have for your dealership and any of your vendors, and also the multi-channel funnel information, I want to just share with you some free, handy Google Analytics tools that everyone can benefit from. Number one, if you haven't already linked your AdWords and your analytics accounts together, that's another absolute have to. Again, I've got little videos at the end of this where Google Analytics people walk you through how to set this up. Also, link your Google Analytics to Google Search Console. That's the Google's new branding term for Webmaster Tools. They actually just released some new functionality last week that I'm going to go into in just a couple of slides here. It's going to be pretty handy for anybody who's focused on SEO. So when you link your analytics and your AdWords, it enables you to do retargeting. Someone comes to your site, doesn't buy, doesn't submit a lead, doesn't call your dealership. You can then use Google's display network to retarget to them. Now you have to actually enable the link between your analytics and your AdWords in order to do that. When you do that, Google Analytics provides demographic and interest reporting. Now, this is something that you have to enable within your site setup. And again, there are links in some of the resources that I provided that'll show you how to do this. But you want to set this up as well because you're going to find nuggets. This is actual dealer data. So if you're retargeting customers who've been to your site and not taken one of the actions that you want them to, and you know that people who are 45 to 54 are 50% more likely to submit a lead on your site based on your actual analytics data from all of the customers on your site. You can focus your retargeting efforts on just that demographic. Same thing with male versus female. If any of this data consistently skews for your dealership site over time, you should be focusing your retargeting dollars. You've only got a finite amount of them. You want to focus them on the pockets of consumers who are most likely to submit a lead or call your dealership when you get them to your site. You're going to find the same thing.
Are you telling me that Google knows my age and my my gender? Google knows that about me just by doing a search?
Google, so you've got to remember the breadth of sites that Google has information on. ESPN, Google's display network is immense. And they also, if you have a Gmail account, they have a lot of data on you. Now, Google Analytics will not share. Google Analytics does not share any personally identifiable information. They won't even share the IP that you're coming from. But what they will do is aggregate this sort of information about all of the traffic coming to your site so that you can make a marketing decision about how best to invest your retargeting dollars, for instance. And again, you can look at sites that people are on where you can spend your display dollars bringing people back to your site, and you can look at the different conversion rates for all of those people. You can look at value per site visit for the different categories that you can advertise and display on. Another function, and again, this is going back to that New Jersey dealer where I couldn't actually drill down into her keywords and figure out exactly the keywords that she was now buying, or there were limitations as to how in depth I could dig with her information. If you link your analytics and your AdWords, and I've wiped out the keywords here so that you can't see which dealer data this is, but you get every one of the keywords that your team or your vendor or whomever is buying on your behalf. You can see exactly how much money was spent. You can see exactly how many clicks that it drove. You can set up goals. You can set up value. You can get that, as I was saying, down to the exact keyword level. It's incredibly powerful information, and there's absolutely no reason for you not to have that data. Additionally, you can set up site link tracking. So this is one of our clients here, but this is not their analytics data. This is analytics data from a different client, and I've tried to anonymize it so that it doesn't show who it is. But you can get site link information and see exactly how consumers are interacting with the site links on your paid search ad. You can see exactly how many folks clicked your click to call button in your site link. Ooh. Right down here. You can see exactly how many people clicked on the service or the new inventory, the contact us site links within your ad. Again, this may be too much data for the GM or obviously the dealer principal, but there is someone at your dealership or someone in your on your vendor's team that can use this information and benefit from it. There's no reason for you not to link your AdWords and your analytics together. If for some reason your digital agency and your AdWords manager will not link your analytics and your AdWords together, that's sort of a red flag. All this does is provide you with more transparency about how they are investing your money on your behalf.
Would you also be able to see if it came from a desktop or a mobile or...
Google Analytics is incredibly powerful for that sort of stuff. You can see what city they were in. You can see, if you're on premium analytics, you can even see the lat and lon of the visit that was coming into your site. There is, except for personally identifiable information, there is almost no limit to the granularity of the information that you can get out of here. And when you've linked your analytics and AdWords together, you can get the dollars associated with it that either yourself, your team, or your vendor is investing for your dealership to bring that traffic to your site.
Wow. And
when we're linking analytics and Search Console together, or what used to be called Webmaster Tools, and again, I suggest everyone do this. There's no cost to it. You have to do it one time, and then you have all the data. So we all know that Google is a huge advocate of sites loading quickly, that they have incorporated speed as one of the key metrics for where your site's going to rank organically. Google does not want to send mobile traffic to a slow site. Obviously, Google has their page speed checker. You can stick one page into it and then see what your speed score is for mobile versus desktop. If you link up your Search Console and your analytics, you get a report in Google Analytics that shows your page speed score for every page on your site like that. You don't have to stick the pages in one by one. You get every single page on your site, you get the page speed score. Additionally, you can see how much traffic each one of those pages gets. So you can figure out, oh my God, I've got a page that's getting a ton of traffic that does not have a particularly high speed score. That's something to go talk to my web provider about. Or if it's some page that my agency has custom built for me, I better go talk to those guys about how we can improve the load time for that page.
Yeah.
This is this is some brand new functionality that Google just released, and they're rolling it out. They announced it last Thursday. They're rolling it out, they said, over the next 2 to 3 weeks. I have not seen any of our clients where it's already enabled. Obviously we have over 1,000 customers who already have their analytics and their Search Console data joined. So I assume that Google is slowly rolling this out. But the functionality that Google took away from us several years ago, when they no longer showed the organic search terms that were bringing traffic to your site, they are now returning through this link. So over the last couple of years, when you linked your Search Console, your Webmaster Tools to your analytics, Google gave you some very high-level impression data and click information. What they didn't show you was how many sessions all of those things generated, what the behavior was for all of those things on your site. With this release, they are returning all of that information to you. That's very powerful. If you set up your conversion tracking, if you set up your value, you are going to be able to see exactly how much value each of the keywords that you're bringing traffic to your site with through organic search are delivering to your dealership. Again, this is functionality that has not been available to us over the last few years, but apparently over the next couple weeks it's going to be returning to us, but only if you have set up this join between your Search Console and your analytics account. So again, we've talked about setting up goals, assigning value. We've talked about making sure that you're tracking all of your digital marketing. We've talked about setting up a monthly scorecard. Again, I'm more than willing to share the fairly rudimentary Excel spreadsheet that we typically use with our clients. I obviously have no problem sharing that with anybody who would like to use it. And our client results team could even show folks how to extract that data from Google Analytics most efficiently to populate that. I do advocate that you share those scorecard reports with your internal teams and your vendors. Make sure that you're measuring any of the changes. If you see something good or bad change dramatically month over month, go into Google Analytics and look at their pre versus post reporting and try and figure out what happened. Here are some of the resources that I'm going to suggest that folks use. If there's anything that anyone would like a little more information about that isn't already in here, please feel free to email me or send an email to Eliana and have her pass along to me. Either way, more than happy to share how you can begin doing all of these things that I've been advocating. The action items that I'm going to advocate are, again, all these things. Whatever you do, make sure that you've got your own Google Analytics account in addition to your website provider or any other vendor's account. You need to own your data, regardless of how valuable anybody else is for helping you out. Make sure that your dealership has your own Google Analytics data. Make a list of all of your important goals and track them. Again, your vendors, your website providers, people who are trying to help you maximize the value of your website and your online marketing efforts cannot do that as well as you would like to unless you share with them the goals for your website. Some of them may seem very obvious, like more leads, more phone calls. Some of them may seem a little more subtle. And make sure that you're assigning a value for all of them so that they can be valued relative to each other. For instance, if I'm generating 15 more website leads but slightly fewer VDP views, that's a good thing, and I should have a lot more value coming out of whatever that change was. But if all I'm doing is counting goals and I have 15 more website leads and 30 less VDP views, then I'm going to be shooting myself in the foot because my total number of goals went down. Again, create a monthly channel and vendor scorecard. Absolutely link your AdWords and your Search Console accounts to your analytics. So I probably sort of barreled through those last slides, Eliana, but I'm more than happy to go into any questions that I might have about this or anything else Google Analytics or general marketing analytics related.
Wow, yes, yes, yes. Chris, wow, that was an amazing webinar. Audience, Thank you so much for the great questions that you've already sent in. But if you haven't gotten in your question yet for Chris Daringer, CMO of Dealeron, now, as you can tell, he obviously knows his stuff when it comes to Google Analytics. Send those questions in. We're here to help you with your Google Analytics questions. I don't think you can stump the guy, but I'd like to see you try, all right? I want to let everyone know, I know he powered through a lot of that stuff, especially those links for suggested resources. Guess what? What I want you to do now is check out the handouts section of your GoToWebinar interface. Check out the handouts section of the GoToWebinar interface, and in there you will see that you can download right now a copy of this slide deck so that you have all of those links and you have all this information that that's a lot of information, I know. So get that handout. It's available right now for immediate download, okay? You have until the end of the broadcast to download it. So take your time, but get in there and do that. Send in your questions, and it's that time. Chris, did you know it was that time?
Is it that time?
It is. It's that time. If you missed it at the beginning of the webinar, I announced that our good friends over at AutoHook are actually sponsoring this week's webinar giveaway. Now, if you haven't heard, AutoHook is a showroom traffic driver, and they've built the ultimate attribution engine. It tracks the customer through the lead, the showroom visit, and the purchase, and then delivers a cost per sale that's best in the industry. One of you lucky webinar attendees is going to win a $250 e-gift card from our friends over at AutoHook. So get ready, get to your keyboards. First person to write in the correct response is going to be winning this awesome prize today. I know we can all use $250, so make sure you're ready for the question, okay? I do want to point out that if you are a vendor, we do love having you on our shows so very much, so thank you so much for being here today. But we are going to ask you to please sit this one out. This prize is intended for dealership personnel only, all right? All right, everyone, good luck. And here's the question, and by the way, no, it's one of the very few things that Chris Daringer did not say about Google, that did not say about Google Analytics today. So either you know it, you can guess, or hey, you can Google it. But here's the question. Good luck, everyone. Google Analytics was officially launched in what year? I know, simple question, right? Oh my God, I can't believe somebody knew this. I can't believe you people are so smart. How did you know that? David Sharp, you're our winner. 2005 was the correct answer. You were the first one to win this prize. To get the correct answer. Thank you so much, David Sharp. Elliott Auto Group, right? Smart. Did you guys have to complete guess? Wow, that was a good guess, David. You are today's winner of $250 e-gift card from AutoHook. You'll be hearing from our friends over at AutoHook soon after the show, so you'll be getting that very, very shortly. Congratulations, David Sharp. And now for all of you who did not win today, I know we only had one prize today, but you know what? We give away cool prizes every week. So come on back to another Dealeron webinar, and who knows, that could be your day to walk away with a very cool Dealeron webinar prize. Thank you so much, everyone, for playing along. Of course, we got to congratulate our good friend, David Sharp, for winning today's giveaway. And, of course, we got to thank our good friends over at AutoHook for their incredible generosity. All right, Chris, if you're ready, we're going to get to those questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, you can go to the next slide so everyone can see your pretty face.
No problem.
All right, first question actually does come from today's winner, David Sharp. He says, first of all, he wants you to know he loves him some Google URL Builder. He thinks it's the bomb diggity. His next question, though, is what is a good load time for pages? What is the industry standard? He wants to know.
If you're concerned about the load time for your pages and the actual impact on your customers, I actually will not suggest that Google Analytics is the best place to get that data, or even Google Analytics page speed test. There's a site called webpagetest.org, and it is the gold standard for figuring out how fast your mobile or desktop sites load. It even gives you the ability to compare your site versus your competitors, and it will allow you to record videos and see how fast your site loads versus up to 5 other sites and it will show you, okay, after 1 second, your site was this far loaded. After 2 seconds, this much. 3 seconds, this much. The general statistics are that for a desktop site, the consumer is looking for it to load within 3 seconds or less. Google has stated that their goal is to have mobile sites load within 1 second, and that is
Wow.
the standard that they are attempting to push people to. I can tell you right now that sites in the automotive space do not load at that speed. Everyone should be working towards that, and obviously at Dealeron, we are incredibly focused on that, and I will put our site speed load time up against any of them, and like I said, I suggest you use the webpage test.org, different sites, but Google has given that as their ultimate standard for load time for mobile. It's aggressive, but I think that they're right. Consumers, think about it. Everyone has, over time, the more that you get used to using your phone to do everything, the less patient you get with anything that is not immediately available. That's true of your website, it's true of anything.
That is so true.
I mean, like I said, Google has set what is currently it's simply not a practical standard for dealerships, but it is the right standard because that's what the consumer is going to want long term, and everybody in our space should be moving as aggressively to that goal as possible.
Recently I saw this meme where it was on Facebook or something, but it said, before you agree to marry somebody, put them in front of a computer with a slow internet connection, and you'll really know the real person or something like that. But it's so true. I hate when I have to wait for something to load. All right, and yes, it is webpagetest.org. So thank you so much for that information, Chris. All right, handful of more questions for you coming your way, like this one from
No
Heather.
problem.
Heather says, so if our web host, Cobalt, for example, does a large portion of our banner ads or Google AdWords, etc., do we ask them to set up the URL builder to track where the leads are coming from on so we can independently see the results?
So if the only case where you don't need to, or a case where you don't need to use Google URL Builder is in the case of AdWords, and in the case where you are linking your analytics and AdWords accounts together. If you don't do that, you need to use the URL Builder or ask that someone do. If they will not, for whatever reason, link the two accounts, and they should. Google Analytics and AdWords, when you do link the accounts together, it gives you an option to use, I'm going to blank on the term, the GCL ID, but basically to automatically pass through from AdWords to Analytics the keyword term and all of the information. Then you don't have to go one by one and set up all of your destination URLs for each one of your ads. Google automatically does it for you, but they'll only do it when you actually link the accounts together. So that's a case where you don't need to use URL Builder. Anyone who is doing your, I'm sure I'll get in trouble with some agencies and some providers. I would advocate that anyone who is doing paid search on your behalf link your accounts together for you and give you access to that information. It is your dollars that are investing, and they're sending to your site. They're making decisions on behalf of your dealership. You should have complete transparency to that.
Okay, and Heather says, I won't tell if you won't. So thank you so much for Heather. Great question. And she says, okay, thank you very much, Chris. All right. Next question comes to you from Joel, and I was wondering the same thing, Joel. Joel says, how do you decide what type of value goes into your goals? What's the amount based upon? Is it website cost divided by third-party lead cost, etc.? Is there a mathematical formula that you use for your?
Yeah, so that's why I sort of advocate starting at something that dealers, generally put some sort of actual monetary value on, and that is the value of a vehicle lead coming to them from their website. Again, if you're buying third-party leads and you're paying $20 for them, and they're a third as valuable to you because they only convert it at a third of the rate as the leads off of your website,
Right.
You're sort of saying that you would be more than willing to spend $60 if someone gave you a new lead off of your website that you didn't have otherwise. That's probably the floor for you because you're probably making a lot more money than that off of each website lead that you're, off of each vehicle lead that your site generates. Let's say that your site generates 100 leads, you sell 20 vehicles from them, and each one of those you make $2,500 in front and back end on. Well, that's a lot more valuable to you if you ever miss out on one of those leads. It's worth more to you than $50. Maybe it's $100. But that's sort of the basis that I would start. I would get the value for that you think is roughly the value to your dealership. And then step back from that to all of the other things, because once you know how much that is, then you'll be able to say something like, well, I think that each VDP view to me is worth about 1/10 or 1/100th of the value of a website lead. Or I think that someone visiting my map and direction page is about 1/5 as valuable as an actual website lead is to me. It gives you a starting point. The point isn't to come up with exactly the right value. The point is to come up with values relative to each other so that you're not like the last thing you would want to do is make some business decision that costs you a bunch of things like website leads that are really valuable to you just so you can get something like more coupon prints that aren't nearly as valuable to you. But the point is to come up with a value for, as an example, the vehicle lead, then start figuring out how valuable everything else that you want to set up as a goal is worth to you relative to that, and then assign them. And then you can always tweak those things from there. But you're never going to start until you start. I guess that's sort of the point. Come up with one value, then assign values for everything else relative to it, and then start measuring.
All right, Joel says, great, thank you, mind blown, excellent, awesome. All right, here we go. Just a few more questions and then we'll have to close out the show, all right, Chris? Next question comes to you from Tom. He says, I heard you mention Google Analytics Plus. What extras do you get with that and how much is that?
I'm sorry, I think I mentioned Google Plus at one point when I was talking about traffic from Google Plus, and I mentioned Google Analytics Premium, which is
Premium.
which is different. So Google Plus is obviously the
right.
Google's attempt at social media, I guess. Google Analytics Premium is probably not something available to most dealers. Dealeron is a premium Google Analytics Premium client, but we're only that because we have, a couple thousand accounts with Google, but it enables our dealers to get some incremental functionality. We're actually going to be rolling out some new reporting later in the year that's going to be based on that. Like I said, it gives you additional granularity into where your traffic is coming from, and it can give you more real-time traffic information. Again, I don't want to put the cart before the horse in terms of all of the functionality that we're going to be able to, all of the incremental functionality that we're going to be able to roll out to our dealers with our newest analytics release. But anyway, just to clarify, that is some of the granularity that's available.
Gotcha. So it's not, Premium is not available to dealers.
Premium is available to dealers if the company doing the analytics for them is a premium customer, but it is way too expensive. It's $150,000 a year for a provider. So
gotcha.
It's probably not something you're going to invest in.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Great question. Thank you very much. Okay. Next. Follow-up question about values just came in from Dan. He says, when it comes to values, do you assign a value for every phone call regardless of if it was from paid search or organic, etc., or just phone call?
I would actually differentiate between phone calls to my sales line or phone calls to my service line. I'm not sure, and again, this is something that you can learn if you set up your, if you integrate your call tracking in your Google Analytics. You would actually eventually be able to learn how valuable a phone call coming from a paid search campaign was relative to a phone call coming from organic search or an email campaign. But my assumption would be that generally most of your sales calls, regardless of whether they're coming from paid search or organic, are worth roughly the same. It's probably a different value from what your service calls would be coming from the same campaigns. So I would make the distinction between sales and service calls. And if you did find over time, and you had the call integration with Google Analytics set up correctly so that you could figure out how valuable phone calls were to you by marketing channel that you're driving them from, you could definitely assign different values to calls originating from different marketing channels.
Dan, thank you so much for the great question. We hope he answered it for you. Follow-up question again came in from Joel. He says, if we have multiple analytics accounts, do we have to merge the AdWords by account level, or can it be merged by campaign level? Chris, that came from Joel.
Yeah, analytics and AdWords accounts are linked together by the property. So if you've got five different websites, you've got a Ford, Nissan, Toyota dealership, you've got a group site, etc. They're linked at the domain level. So you would link your Ford AdWords account to your Ford Analytics account for the same site, and they're done individually. I mean, it'll be like 1 minute once you're logged in, and after you watch the video, it's easy to do. You just have to do it one time.
Gotcha. Okay, you have a couple more minutes before we close out the show to download your handout, which is today's slide deck from Chris Daringer. It's in the handout section. So please get that going. Joel, thank you so much for the great question. Last question comes in from Adam. Adam says, where do we find the keyword report?
So there are a number of places to find it. Actually, if you don't mind, Eliana,
No, go ahead.
Go back up here. So if you're doing if you're linking, as I suggest, if you're linking your analytics and AdWords accounts together, you will see within the acquisition area of your analytics, you'll see an AdWords section. Now, all of this stuff is not available to you unless you have linked your analytics and your AdWords together. Once you've done that, you can click down into keywords, you can look at site links, you can look at bid adjustment search queries, you can look at all of this stuff once you link those things together.
Adam?
And that's where you would find it, acquisition, and then within the AdWords section.
Adam, I hope that helps you out. And feel free to contact anyone on the Dealeron team if you need further help with that. All right, he says, got it, thanks. All right, I just wanted to let you know, Chris, Bob wrote in, he says, nice job. And Sharpie, who is an avid Dealeron webinar attendee, he goes to almost all of our webinars, and I thank him greatly for that. He always listens for like a really great quote, and he writes it down on a sticky, and he puts it on his monitor, so he has all these great quotes right around his monitor, and he actually said, this is going on my monitor. You're never going to start until you start. You made it on the monitor, Chris.
I'm honored.
Chris, if I could ask you please to go back down towards the end of the presentation so we can close out this show. Yeah, David says he's big time now. So thank you so much. Great webinar. Great webinar. I'm not the only one who thinks so. Lots of people are writing in right now saying you did an amazing job. I cannot disagree. Thank you so much for letting me twist your arm and having you come on the show, Chris. You did a spectacular job.
Thank you very much, Eliana. Thanks to everyone for their taking some time out today. Hopefully everybody learned something actionable, something that's going to help them out and help them sell more cars and get more ROs more profitably.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. I want to remind the audience a link to download a copy of this webinar recording is going to be emailed to you in just a few hours. It's for your reference, but hey, feel free to share it with your friends and colleagues. Today's webinar is also going to be posted online within 24 hours. All you have to do is go to dealeron.com/webinars to view our upcoming webinar schedule or access any of our past webinars too. And you know what? You're going to get a short survey. Real short. It's 6 questions. I'm asking you, please fill it out. We're always looking for your feedback, but you know what? I really want to know what you thought about today's show. It would really mean a lot to me, so please fill out that questionnaire and let your voice be heard. We want to know what you thought about today's show, about Chris's presentation, and of course, about the Dealeron webinar series in general. And yeah, invitations will be going out tomorrow for our next Dealer On webinar, and it's a doozy. 5 tips to Insta success on Instagram. Do you want to be an Insta success on Instagram but don't know how? In this eye-opening 1-hour webinar, social media maven Kate Frost is going to share her time-saving tricks, tips, and best practices that will help you create a strong presence for your dealership on Instagram. She spent nearly 2 years unlocking the secrets of Instagram, learning the most efficient ways to build branding and business. Now, she's sharing those valuable secrets with you. Kate is going to share 5 incredible tips to help you grow your audience, engagement, and ROI. Attendees of this fantastic presentation are going to learn apps that will have you taking pictures like a pro, the importance of hashtags and using them to get more exposure, effectively using Instagram ads to target in-market car shoppers, and awesome time-saving shortcuts. Boy, we could all use those, huh? Whether you're a dealer ready to get started or looking to expand your social strategy, if you're ready to learn 5 tips to Insta success on Instagram, well, then you can't afford to miss this webinar, so register now. And don't forget, Dealeron's weekly webinars are held Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Mountain, and 9 a.m. Pacific. We have some awesome webinar subjects planned for you, but if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions regarding our webinars and our topics, feel free to contact me. Again, my name is Eliana Raggio, and I would love to hear from you. And I'm everywhere. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and I'm on all the automotive social networks. So you can track me down online or just email me directly at eliana@dealeron.com. Thank you all so very much for spending this time with us today, and I hope to see you all on another webinar in our continuing education series. Take care.